everyone, it's Denise Hahn from In My Blue Room Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute little credit card holder out of graphic 45 paper. I use this to keep credit cards, business cards in. It's also great to make as a gift for friends. They're really easy to make. All you're going to need today is your sewing machine with your choice of color thread, some Scotch tape, some contact paper which you can purchase at office supply stores. It's really inexpensive, and optionally a corner punch. So let's get started. Meet me over at the paper cutter. Okay everyone, now we're going to pick out exactly what image we want to show up on our credit card holder, and I'm using graphic 45's curtain call, and I really do love this Clarabow image, and that's sort of what I want to end up being on the front of my card holder like that. So to do that, one of the things I'm going to do is cut away this edge so it doesn't look awkward, and just start from there. Alright, now the dimensions you're going to cut this are 4 inches wide by 5.5 inches long. So since I know I want this to be on the front of the long side, I'm going to go ahead and go my width, which is 4 inches. So I'm going to start about there, give it a chop. Okay, so now that I've cut my 4-inch wide, I want to sort of eyeball where this is going to land. And basically you have to do a little math. If your whole piece is going to be 5.5 inches long, half of that would be 2 3/4. So you could just grab your ruler and sort of go, okay, there's about 2 3/4. So if I want to get Clara in the first half there, I'm going to have to chop it right below the D in dangerous curves. So I'm going to go right below the D in dangerous curves. Okay, and then I want this to be 5.5 inches long, so I'm going to go to the 5.5 and chop off the top. Hey, I'm pretty happy with how that came out. You can go ahead and give it a little fold in half if you like, and see how it's going to look. I like it. Now we're going to go on over to the contact paper. Okay, now here I have my contact paper, and conveniently they've gridded it out for us. These are 1/2 inch grids. So I'm just going to eyeball it and cut. I want this to be bigger than my whole piece, so I want it to be wider than 4 inches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll probably cut it about there, just give myself some extra. And then down we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, go about 6. That's perfect. I'm going to need 2 pieces, so just kind of, again, go over the top. This doesn't have to be exact because we're going to retrim these edges. And also, we're going to need the pocket for the inside, which we make just out of plain contact. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the rest of this strip, and then we're going to be folding that in half on each other, which I'll show you in a minute. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and get our piece and put it in the contact paper. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and just peel off our contact paper. And we're just going to, you guessed it, stick it right on the top there. Kind of flatten it down. Now contact paper isn't permanently adhesive actually, so there's a little bit of play with it. I like to use a credit card to just sort of flatten it out and straighten out the edges, get it in there, get it nice and sealed and good looking. And I'm going to flip it over, and that's why I like to use graphic 45 for this project, because they're double-sided. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And again, we're going to retrim these edges, so don't freak out that it's not matching up. and go from the inside out. And voila, you got your surface covered. Now I'm going to take it back over to the paper trimmer and trim it one more time. Okay, so now over at the paper trimmer, one of the first things that I'm going to do is start myself off with a nice straight edge. And I know my paper that I initially cut is already straight, so instead of using the guide up here, which you don't want to use because your edges are crooked on the laminate, you just want to kind of line that paper up and give it a nice clean cut. And then you're going to go ahead and go back to using your guide. Okay, so this little baby is one of my favorite toys. It's a Martha Stewart scoring board, and basically we want to go ahead and score right down the middle of our piece, which looks like about right there. And it's going to fold inward, so you want to be on the inside facing you, and go ahead and give it a nice little burnishing score there. Make it fold a little bit easier. All right, perfect. Okay, for our next step, we're going to go ahead and create the inside pockets using just a plain piece of contact paper. So we're just going to attempt to peel it off. And then we are going to fold it over onto itself. And I just kind of do not like to start on that end. I like to start in the center and then press it out with my card. So go like that. Take my used gift card tool, go like that. Get it nice and straight. That's going to be our inside pocket, like that. And then I'll show you how to measure that out. Okay, so now we have our extra piece, and as you can see, it's pretty simple. You want to come in about 1/2 inch from your fold. Yeah, about 1/2 inch. And that will be your first pocket. So I'll go ahead and just trim off the excess. Then I have enough for my other 1/2 inch pocket. And what I'm going to do is line them up, and then get yourself a piece of Scotch tape, just basic old tape. And we're going to stick those on. Of course, even though we're sewing, we really can't pin things because, you know, put a pin through your paper. So go ahead and tape those down. And then either with your scissors or your trimmer, trim down the outer edge. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Okay, so now your piece should be looking like this. I've trimmed the edges of the inside pockets. I have it taped down and secured. And one of the things about setting up your machine is you want to make sure you're on the biggest stitch length. One of the things I learned early on is using a small stitch length actually perforates the paper and then makes it almost like you could just tear it. So the wider the stitch length, the better. I use just a regular all-purpose polyester thread. I've chosen black, and you're just going to use a straight stitch. So let me reset up the machine and I'll show you exactly how I stitch it. Okay, so we're pretty much just, you know, going around the outer edge of this, but one of the things you want to remember is you want your messy stitching, your overlap to be on the back. So I want to make sure that I'm starting on the back part of my piece. And I just start basically, you know, anywhere along the edge there. I don't start directly in a corner. And you want to give about, I don't know, it's maybe 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, maybe 1/4. Basically, I just sort of look for a point of reference, which I use this little edge here, and start sewing around. Okay, now I'll slow down when I'm approaching the corner. Then I'll kind of hand crank my machine to make sure that I'm down as far as I want to go. I lift up the foot, I spin it around, I drop it down, I see that I'm a little too far over from where I want to be. So I'm gonna go back and see if maybe, well, if I do another stitch, it's gonna put me too far out. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with this. And again, just using your point of reference and making sure you're following that straight line. Okay, again, as I get close to the edge, I'm going to hand wheel it in. That looks about good. I don't know, let's see if I can squeeze out one more. I could always just temporarily change my stitch to a little bit smaller and do one more. Ah, that worked perfect. Hey, look, solving problems. Okay, now I'm a little farther over where I want to be. Go ahead and start stitching again using that same point of reference, keeping it nice and straight. Somewhat straight. Okay, I'm going to hand crank it. That's kind of tight. I think I'll be okay. All right, go down the other edge again. Slow it down as I come to the corner. And I think I'm again going to adjust that stitch length so I can line it up with the ending stitch. Flip it around. Raise the stitch back up. And then I'm going to go ahead and back stitch it just a couple stitches. Again, it is paper. You don't want to perforate through it. And then just we'll trim off our edges. Okay, so now I've taken my piece, I've cut off the excess thread, I have double checked it to make sure my card fits in it. You know, I kind of had to experiment to get my sizing right. Everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half again. And you can leave it just like this, but I like to take my corner puncher. It gives it a little more finished edge, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Okay, the key with corner punching it is to get a real narrow, tiny corner punch. You don't want it too wide or you'll cut through your trim. And it's real easy to do. Just going to stick that little corner in. It's very tiny. And nip it. And I think that just gives it a really, you know, nice, clean, finished edge look. Do that on the top and bottom. And you'll notice on this one, for some reason, on the opposite side, my machine had sort of a loose tension on it. So that's sort of just part of experimenting. I can see that I would want that to be a lot tighter. And you can fix that by adjusting the tension on your machine. So anyway, I'm very pleased with the way it came out. You know, sometimes imperfect stitching, you know, is sort of the look that you're going for, especially when you like the vintage style. So there we have it. We're all finished up. I encourage you to make more things. I'm going to show you a couple other things I made using the same technique. Well, thanks for joining me today to learn how to make some of these cute contact paper laminated items, credit card holder, coupon holder, checkbook holder. I encourage you to come up with your own ideas, your own designs. I'd love to see what you come up with. You can email them to me at inmyblueroomdesigns@gmail.com. This is Denise Hahn. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Have a good one.